And our kids are getting sicker and sicker. They're not getting better. Nobody here, all the people here who are defending this current system and defending these pharmaceutical industry profits, many of whom are taking huge amounts of money from the pharmaceutical industry, millions of dollars for many of these senators. And none of that, this is not making our country healthier. It's making us sicker. We need to get rid of these conflicts. We need good science, and we need good leadership that is able to stand up to these big industries and not bend over for them.
Spicy. It's enjoyable to me watching these issues come to the forefront and watching the American people discuss them and argue about them. We've never been allowed to do that in the past, of course. Don't want to question settled science. Joining me now, my friend, a man who still has a full head of hair, Michael Knowles, host of the Michael Knowles Show. Michael, are you proud of your hair?
I am proud of it. This is one area where the national health has not declined. But on many other facets of our public health, it has declined, which is why Bobby Kennedy is probably going to be the next HHS secretary.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you think he's doing out there. Look, he brings up things that people don't want to talk about. And I'll be honest, things that I'm ignorant about. You know, people talk about vaccines, this, and autism, that. And look, I just want to be able to have a conversation, and I get nervous whenever someone tells me I'm not allowed to. It leads me to believe I'm being lied to about something.
Well, you saw this especially in Kennedy's second performance. He really went for the jugular on the Democrats, and he said, look, this isn't really a battle between Republicans and Democrats or the left and the right here. The people who are opposing my nomination are big pharmaceutical companies. And we talk about corruption in the federal agencies. Well, there's a whole lot of corruption here in Congress. He said to Bernie Sanders directly, he said, you know, Bernie, you yourself have taken a lot of money from the pharmaceutical industry. So that's really where the big headwinds are. And Big Pharma does have a lot of political power. So that's what's going to either float or sink the Kennedy nomination. The other big question from the Senate, though, is can Kennedy pull any Democrats over to vote for him? The one guy who has been rumored to maybe vote for him is Sheldon Whitehouse, senator from Rhode Island, because Whitehouse and Kennedy are law school buddies. They've known each other for 40 years. I think Whitehouse, during the first hearing, was signaling that he will vote for Kennedy if he has to. You know, he was making a big show, huffing and puffing, talking about how concerned people are about Kennedy's nomination. But notice, he never asked Kennedy a single question. So really, I think he was filibustering himself to let Kennedy off the hook. If I had to gamble right now, I would say 65-35 he gets through.
Oh, wow. What are our concerns? Who are our concerns in the GOP? I know Cassidy's all been huffing and puffing and trying to blow the house down. And of course, you can always bank on the low-T GOP to screw you in one way or the other. Are we going to see the standard Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski crap? Who are we worried about?
Cassidy is the big one, but yeah, you're obviously always worried about Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, who, in their defense, their constituents expect them to be half Democrats most of the time. So, you know, I get it. That's kind of baked into the equation. The one that's really disappointing now, of course, is Mitch McConnell, because Cocaine Mitch has nothing to lose. So the voters of Kentucky want him to be a conservative. But what does he care? He's 150 years old. He's no longer the Senate Majority Leader. He is going to be out of the Senate after this term, unless they really weekended Bernie's him, and maybe he'll be up through the 22nd century. But he doesn't care, and he obviously doesn't really like RFK. So that means you might need a Democrat, and I'm actually feeling pretty good. There was a question about Masto. Cortez maybe could come over. I'm feeling less good about that, but I think that if the rubber meets the road and we need to pull one more vote over, from what I've seen thus far, I think Sheldon Whitehouse comes over.
Let's switch gears, talk about Tulsi before we get to Kash Patel. Tulsi Gabbard, it's really odd how intent Democrats seem on keeping the status quo when it comes to things like NSA, CIA, things like that. I would think traditional Democrats would have an issue when branches of the federal government have turned inward when they're not even allowed to operate allegedly here domestically.
What we've been told for most of our lifetimes is that Republicans are the party of the establishment and the corporations and the deep state and the rich Uncle Pennybags. And the Democrats are the independent voices trying to shake things up, speak truth to power, man. And what these second Trump term nomination fights have shown us is it's exactly the opposite. It's the Democrats who are beholden to the big corporate interests, and it's the Democrats who are propping up the desiccated establishment and the deep state. So Tulsi was always going to be one of the toughest nominees because, as Chuck Schumer told us during the first Trump term, the intelligence community can get you 20 ways from Sunday, and she has taken them on. She has spoken truth to power. So Pete Hegseth was the canary in the coal mine. They put up one of their four most controversial nominations right as the first guy to meet the Senate, and he made it through. It was 51-50, but he still made it through. Then they had a bunch of boring nominations, Marco Rubio, all these guys that we knew were going to get through. And then they saved Kennedy, Tulsi, Kash Patel for last. I think because Hegseth made it through, I think that whipped the Senate in line. I think Tulsi is going to get through, but she's facing major headwinds. You know, with Pete, he was going up not against the libs and the Dems, he was going up against the military-industrial complex. He was going up against the defense contractors and the establishment. With Tulsi, she's going up against the IC and all of its related associations. With Kash Patel, the same story. And with Kennedy, he's going up against Big Pharma. So the upshot of all of these nominations is we're about to find out just which of these extra government forces and bureaucratic forces wields the most power in America.
Which brings me to Lindsey Graham, actually, because he's indicated several times that he's hesitant about Tulsi Gabbard. Well, I'm not really sure about Tulsi and Edward Snowden. We have to hear his feminine voice on TV every single day now, trying to kneecap these nominees. But the thing is, Lindsey Graham only gets to exist in the Senate because Donald Trump frustratingly continues to hold him up, calls him up on stage, my good buddy Lindsey. Surely Lindsey Graham is not going to reward Donald Trump holding him up by screwing one of his nominees. I have a hard time believing that.
This is the stick and the carrot of the art of the deal, and it's the only way that I can make sense of President Trump playing nicely with some of these guys, is that he recognizes he needs friends in all corners of politics. He needs them in the establishment. He obviously has the conservatives. He needs them in the Democrats. I mean, two of the people we're talking about right now are Democrats and actually ran for president as Democrats. So Trump is pretty good about all of that. And I tend to agree with you, Jesse. I think if Lindsey Graham comes out now and torpedoes one of President Trump's most prominent nominees, when Lindsey Graham could potentially be the deciding vote on that, I don't know. Whatever Lindsey Graham's views of the intelligence community, does he really want to torpedo that relationship, the most important political relationship that he has, over Tulsi Gabbard? I would be surprised. I think Trump is a really smart politician, but I think Lindsey Graham is a smarter politician than all that, too.
Yeah, just got to be careful if Lindsey Graham's trying to sneak up behind you. You did a viral thread on a California school board with all this DEI stuff and all this crazy stuff going on and how these filthy communists are trying to hide what they're doing. Expand on that, please.
So this was a school out in Colorado, the Durango School District, and they were flying the pride flag. Actually, it was what I call the terrorist pride flag. It was the pride flag, but that has the BLM colors in and the trans colors, and it's the really aggressive pride progress flag. So they had that. They had the BLM flag separately. They promoted Black Power. That's a direct quote from some of the district's conversations. And it was in the classroom, and a mother complained. So they bring it to the chief academic officer, and the academic officer says, yeah, this, if we're going to have this be an open forum, then you're going to get political speech on the other side. The administrators and the school board were terrified that a student, could you imagine, might wish to fly a straight pride flag? Oh, that would be the end of the world. So they were trying to figure out ways to protect the absurd leftist symbols in the classroom, but not let the conservatives speak. And the way they figured out to do it was they were going to classify the progressive speech as government speech. but they were going to call the normal right wing, red, white, and blue kind of normal stuff. That was going to be political speech. That would be banned. And so they were going to try to avoid a First Amendment issue. Now, the really crazy part is one of the teachers at this school, who, according to other teachers, was one of the pride flag waving educators, he was arrested for possession of child pornography and trying to entice a child. Okay, so it's always the ones you most expect. So the school, you would think, would be particularly sensitive on these issues. No, they're trying to double down and triple down on this matter. School boards right behind them. So, we're all happy now that Trump is ending DEI in the government. He issued this great executive order to get this leftist indoctrination out of K through 12 schools. That's all great. Now we need to make sure that we get all of that follow-up, because there is going to be resistance at every level, within the federal agencies, at the state level, even down to the local level. So when President Trump has his sticks and carrots, we got to make sure that all of his lieutenants are enforcing those incentives.
Are you still smuggling cigars in and out of the country?
You know it, Jesse. This is my most important issue right now, because there have been so many W's. There have been so many wins in the first week and a half. The only way to celebrate is with a delicious Mayflower cigar. Spark it up. You can get yours today.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.